the height of ego to think that signing Canelo was about getting back at Eddie Hearn.
This is Jonathan Agra, 5th Pro Boxing Fans, joined by Showtime Stephen Espinoza here in Las Vegas. A couple of days now to go until Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. Stephen, it's been respectful, it's been sort of calm all throughout the build-up, and then today it was going off between the fighters, the trainers, the families. Does that just signify the significance of this fight and something had to give?
Yeah, I mean, you've got two respectful guys. You've got two guys that respect each other and their accomplishments, and how can you not? You can't really take anything away from the careers of Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. But what you saw today, I think, is fight week intensity. Yes, it spilled over in a little bit to the camps, but at the end of the day, respect is given throughout. But it's still a fight. There's still intensity. There's still rivalry. There's still emotion, and you saw that from the trainers. You saw that in the camps. So. I think it's good. It's to remind people that, look, this is not all fun and games. I mean, these guys are two very respectful, level-headed guys. But there is still, a lot of competitiveness, a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion in this fight. And it's clear it came to the surface today.
Obviously, two of the best in the sport, by probably two of the best pound for pound. Does Saturday's fight decide the number one?
For me, it does, and it doesn't take away anything from Inoue and his fantastic win over Stephen Fulton. But you've got two guys who have been, top 5 pound for pound. Sometimes 2 and 3, sometimes 1 and 3. They're probably two of the top 3 or 4 fighters in the world. And for me, when you've got the number 2 guy beating the number 3 guy, or the number 2 guy beating the number 4, whatever it is, that carries a lot of weight. And that's not to take away anything from Stephen Fulton, because he's a fantastic fighter, and he's going to have a great career. But if you're the number 2 pound for pound guy and you beat the number 3 or the number 4, to me that's a statement win. That probably, as in my book, probably ascends to the number 1 based on the quality of the opposition.
Just quick few more, because we're going to get kicked out in a minute. In terms of the pay-per-view for this fight, some people are suggesting that this won't do as well as Tank and Ryan Garcia. What's your view on that? Obviously, those two had massive followings. These two do have big followings, but how do you feel this is being received by the casual fan? Yeah,
I mean, a different kind of fight. Every fight stands on its own. I think this is going to be very, very successful. Tank and Ryan are two of the unique fighters in boxing. There's nobody quite that has the fan base that they do in terms of casual fans, and young fans. So they do bring in a broader audience than virtually anybody. So, candidly, we haven't seen anybody put together a fight that big, in 5 years. So I don't think these guys deserve any criticism if they don't match what Tank and Ryan did, because no one else has done that, in the last 5 years anyway. But look, if we're in the range that we think we're going to end up in, even if it's short of 1.2 million, it's still a very successful fight. It's still going to be a gate in excess of $20 million. It's going to be a very successful event, and probably a career high payday by a multiple for each of the two fighters.
Last question, and obviously you might have been expecting this with me being from the UK. I've had the chance to speak to Eddie Hearn on a number of occasions, not yourself. I spoke to him a week or two ago about his comments where a few years ago when he suggested that Showtime were going to go out of business. I asked him, does he regret those comments? He said at the time he did feel that Showtime were on the way out, but he has been impressed with sort of the run you guys have put on and things like that. What is the feeling towards him and Dazn, and do you ever see yourselves working together if the fight makes sense?
Yeah, I have no problem working with Eddie Hearn on any fight in the future. And it's not anything personal. I've heard a variety of theories, including some of his, of why we don't have the best business relationship, some related to Anthony Joshua or anything like that. It couldn't be anything further from the truth. From my perspective, when someone comes in, to the market and says, your business is dying, your business model sucks, we're going to take all your fighters, you're not going to be able to survive. 5, that there isn't really a collaboration with those kind of people. So, the reality is, if that's the way he wants to come into the market, then he shouldn't be surprised that people react sort of coldly or antagonistically, which is fine. It's all competition, and it's not personal in any way. But, me, I would have come in, slightly differently. I don't think, it did him any favors to sort of announce what he's going to do. It allowed everybody to sort of prepare and defend against it. It should have probably come in quietly in the market, and bought up a bunch of it before people even realized what he was doing. He chose a different way. Didn't turn out exactly, I think, the way he planned. If there's an opportunity to work together in the future with Eddie, happy to do it. Certainly we have a working relationship with Dazn. We did a very successful event. We'd do another one if the situation warranted.
When Canelo left Dazn to join you guys, there was an impression maybe from him that he felt that guys like yourself, Len and Ellaby, were just kind of happy that he left Eddie Hearn. Is that accurate or not?
No, look, I give credit for the way Canelo has conducted his career. He's bounced around, taking advantage of all the opportunities, taking advantage of the business of Dazn getting into the market. And he's cashed in on some really big paydays and some really great events. So trying to get Dazn, trying to get Canelo, had really nothing to do with Eddie Hearn. That is sort of the height of ego to think that signing Canelo was about getting back at Eddie Hearn. Canelo is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, stars in the sport, and that is the end in itself. It doesn't matter who had him before or who he's working with. The objective is to get the biggest fights possible on our platform, and that includes getting Canelo fights. So, that's the goal, regardless of who he's with. I don't take any particular pleasure in that he was leaving Dazn or leading Eddie Hearn. Doesn't matter who he's with. It's our belief that we can make him better, that we've got, we can make the events better, make the events bigger. We've got better access to the opponents, which are going to make for big mega fights going forward. And we think that, we've got a really bright future with some mega fights on the horizon with him.
Is that going to land on 16th of September, or is there do you have a date?
It'll be the 30th, the 30th of September, and it'll be in Vegas. We have held off on the promotion because obviously we want to get through this one, but as soon as we get through Spence-Crawford on the 29th, then the promotion for Canelo Charlo will kick off in full speed.
Finally, who's the most likely opponent for Tank Davis?
It's a good question. We've just started. I've seen all kinds of speculation and rumors. We haven't really progressed, very far at all. The one thing that we do know is that Tank very much wants to get back in the ring before the end of the year. We're going to work toward that. There's been a lot of talk about Devin Haney. Devin Haney seems to have a full dance card. He's got opportunities he's got a mandatory at 135. He's got a potential title shot at 140. I'm not sure that, Tank's going to work out for Devin, given the timetable that Tank's on versus the timetable, the opportunities that Devin has. But that's obviously a fight in the future that could happen. Tank, is dead set. He wants the biggest fights in the division, bar none. Doesn't matter what platforms, doesn't matter, which fighters. He wants the biggest fights possible.
Stephen Espinoza, thanks for talking to Pro Boxing Fans ahead of Spence-Crawford live on Showtime pay-per-view here and TNT Sports in the UK.
Great.